On this episode, you're going to learn about Omni-channel growth funnels. It's a great episode you don't want to miss, so do stay tuned. So welcome to the 2x eCommerce podcast show. I'm your host, Kunle Campbell, and this interview you're about to listen to is an interview I had with Darius Kunca, who is a co-founder of a performance marketing agency called AdKings. Now, AdKings started out as a Facebook advertising agency, exclusively Facebook, about 2 or 3 years ago. And what they have morphed to is more an agency that builds out omni-channel funnels, essentially. Now, these funnels are multi-channel, and they layer in towards what he says to deliver like a blended ROAS, which really is a marketing efficiency ratio, which is really what is the return of all of the advertising spend to sales. What's the impact on advertising on sales? So what his agency does is they work with promising e-commerce businesses, and they essentially go on a trial with them. And if the trial goes well, they then take over their entire marketing as if they're like an outsourced CMO, essentially, and then they scale it with a combination of channels. They initially probably start with Facebook with one single channel, and then they start to layer in other channels, and then they control also email marketing, and they essentially control all of the acquisition and retention efforts in a bid to deliver a high blended ROAS. That is the ethos. So we talk a lot about Facebook advertising, about Snap, about YouTube advertising, how to get everything in tandem. Now, one thing I noticed with Darius, which is very, very interesting, is his two things actually. One was the fact that he, as much as he knows the tactics, he does not like to dwell on the tactics, because tactics do change. If I was having this conversation with him 2 years ago, the tactics that we would have talked about will change today. So he talked about like account simplicity, but didn't go to, I kept on pushing on, what is account simplicity. He gave me the details, but also made me grounded and aware that, look, these things change, but here are the principles that, stand strong regardless. The other thing I noticed was also like his need for just not being fearful, like with this iOS update that's about to get hold, talking about like emotions and treating it like the stock market, where, while everybody is in fear, that is the time to move in for opportunity. And that was a really, really interesting point he made. And I think we need to adopt that while the industry panics, as much as, there's money involved, we need to become considerate and, and just be able to react, with the data we have to hand. Very difficult to say if you're just seeing money burning and you're managing, you're in charge of, a lot of funds, and, the health of a business actually relies on your hands. So very difficult, but it is also a point to note, not to over panic. So we talk Google ads, YouTube ads, percentage breakdowns, how to build out funnels. There were some clever funnels he shared with us. Some based on advertorials, some based on landing pages, some based on tutorials. There were some really, really clever, funnels we talked about. We talked about how, they built out a cosmetic brand from, 500K to 26, million, dollars in revenue. There's some really good case studies here, and just looking at the way, going on their website, the way they present themselves, and just my interactions with him on LinkedIn and Facebook have just been class, A class. So enjoy the episode if you want to get a grip on performance multi-channel or omni-channel, performance marketing essentially, and you want to sort of plan ahead, or beyond this whole iOS fiasco. For those who don't know, obviously Apple is clamping down on apps and the way apps take your data, and we think about a world beyond all of that. And he is, contrary to he's a contrarian because he thinks that things will settle down eventually and almost back to a new normal, but we'll all survive because the fundamentals remain the same. So enjoy this conversation, enjoy this episode. I'm sure you're going to have fun listening to this one, and I shall catch you on the other side. Peace. This is the e-commerce podcast dedicated to rapid growth in direct-to-consumer selling. Now, if you work in marketing at an e-commerce business or a founder, I'm going to help you sell more directly to your customers. And the way we do this is I interview an expert, a founder at a direct-to-consumer e-commerce business, or a representative from a best-in-class e-commerce SaaS platform or software to come in and just spill the beans. Spill the beans on growth, on actionable, referenceable growth they have witnessed or they see on a regular basis to share with us. And we don't spare anything. We ask and go deep in every single conversation. So if you're looking to grow metrics such as conversions, average order value, repeat customers, your audience size, and ultimately sales, you are tuned in to the right show. So if you're on your run now, you're in your car, you're taking a walk, just stay here, okay? Just stay here. Now, speaking of which, on today's episode, I have with me Darius Kunca, who is a co-founder of a Facebook. It's not just a Facebook; it's a performance marketing agency called AdKings, and they essentially, I think the major thing they have, the major accolade they have on their belt is them scaling a business, which we're going to talk about, from $500,000 dollars a year to $26 million a year in just 12 months. So he likes to call AdKings a boutique e-commerce agency, e-commerce growth agency that builds out funnels, Omni-channel rather, agency with Facebook leading and other channels supporting. But I like to think that, they have quite a lot of authority because when I hang out on LinkedIn, I see a post from Darius or from AdKings, I just see it blow up. I see the quality, the depth in thought, and it is something that's really attracted me. So when the opportunity arose to speaking with him, I just jumped at it. He's also the host of the podcast called Built to Scale. It's an e-commerce podcast, so tune in. I'll link that in the show notes. Definitely subscribe. It's worth subscribing to his podcast. I think I have said what I know, but without further ado, I'd like to welcome Darius Kunca to the show. Welcome, Darius.
Hey, Kunle. So first of all, super excited to be here. And, right as you mentioned, I can say the same thing about you. I've seen you many times on Instagram and LinkedIn, and, super excited to finally be here.
Oh, thank you so much. Thank you so much. That is modest. I'll take that from you. Let's do an quick intro of you and AdKings. Then I would love to go way back.
Yep. So AdKings and me, right? So we kind of started, me and business partner Justin, we started AdKings, I think, officially 2 years ago, but we started creating this idea about 3 years ago. And what AdKings is first of all, boutique e-commerce growth agency, and each word here is very deliberately thought after. So first of all, why boutique, right? Because we never want to be working with more than 20 clients at any given time. And we do not want to have crazily huge team, which is more than 35 people at any given time. And why it is so? Because we believe that to get the best results possible, you really have to personalize your approach to pretty much any business, or at least to be able to compete with in-house teams, etc. You have to really give it all. And when you try to create a huge agency, honestly, you just have to sacrifice that quality at one point or never, and we never really wanted to do it this way. And then there's another word, right? Growth. And personally, I never see marketing and just marketing, right? Why we call ourselves growth agency? Because we usually do so much more than just typical marketing agency. We usually come into the business and act more as we're outsourced CMOs, usually completely revamping their marketing approach. And we work usually with idea that the Facebook ads is the main acquisition channel, but it usually has such a huge flaw of just low returns and low ROAS, and now especially with iOS 14 and all the other things coming in, it will get only more wavy. This means sometimes you have amazing days, sometimes you have bad days where, but returns in general isn't that hot. So we kind of face this issue with a lot of our clients. And this is why we name ourselves growth agency, because we go so much broader than Facebook. We usually add up other channels. We add up conversion rate optimization to maximize each click value that, of the people you drive from Facebook. We add up, email marketing to retain them. We add up some additional ideas, let's say creating private communities for our clients. And it's kind of, I think, the new thing that will be coming in, I would say, next 2-3 years, that every good, solid e-commerce business should have their own community there. Because it's so much more than just email marketing.
Yeah, absolutely. I absolutely agree with you. So right now I'm experimenting with TikTok organic, and I can tell you that platform is addictive in terms of like the time on site. Just the amount of time, it's just addictive. The number of things you could do, the depth you could go with, not just the trends, but audiences, the content, the fact that it's very creative focused. And if you focus on dashboards and on growth in essence, and as you said, Omni-channel, you just layer that in as a new channel, as as shift, as attention shift, from platform to platform. But we're going to jump into all of what you're talking about. What I really like is to understand really briefly what life was before AdKings. I'm quite sure you were into, what were you into? Let's jump into that.
Yeah, that's kind of interesting. I guess, whenever people ask me this question, I always have to go back to my childhood, take a few steps back. So I think, where I consider my story starting was actually just elementary school, second grade. It was kind of like, I guess, emotional moment for me and a very big shakedown for me emotionally that my father died, actually. And he died from heart issues and some other problems in general. And it did cause me, I would say, to shut down and basically, pull myself back from the world for at least 10 years. And you know what usually happens here, at least in Eastern Europe and Russia, when, there is a kid who's maybe a little bit shy, is not growing with father, doesn't know how to stand up for himself. Yeah, he does start to get bullied. And I would say this was maybe the biggest catalyst in my life, but at the same time, the biggest challenge I had. So for 10 years straight, honestly, I was bullied every day in school, in my life. I was never able to stand up for myself. I literally, at few times in my life, I felt, well, why should I be living? There's nothing to enjoy. And, thankfully at, I think, 11th grade, right, my world was, I guess, a little bit shaken, or it just kind of came to this second point or just big breakthrough I had where it did involve a little bit of, like girl and a required love, right? How it is with high school. But it kind of reached the point where I just became too scared to be who I am right now versus changing. And this is what sparked literally everything, my entrepreneurship, my personal development. I literally started to get outside of my comfort zone every day. I was consuming self-improvement content 8 to 12 hours a day. I was trying to learn to speak to people because through these 10 years, I got to such a bad place that I didn't almost know how to speak with people. I was stuttering for years. And I needed to learn to do everything. And, even like a few years ago, it doesn't need to be, as far as, my childhood. But speaking on a show like this, I would never have imagined that someday I would be speaking here and doing what I'm doing. And all my world was basically shaken down at that moment. And I started to learn. I started to go through fire and implement things, what I'm reading. I'm super thankful to people, and the books at that day. And I remember reading like 4 Hour Work Week, and it literally changed everything for me, about the possibilities there. And this what inspired me to start my first e-commerce business when I was actually 18. This was 8 years ago. And it's a very fun thing, back in the days, like dropshipping wasn't even a thing. Nobody was talking about it. Nobody was almost, like even Shopify was just starting. Facebook ads, I think we were in the market only for like 8 or 9 months when I started, to work with them. So I literally started right at the start of this whole trend. And I started my first e-commerce business at 18, and I remember, not know anything how to code, and I would spend, days learning to do it. I would create a WooCommerce store because Shopify wasn't an option back in the days. I learned how to market, I learned how to design, take images, etc. And what I did, because, such a concept as dropshipping wasn't even there, I would pack things from China, get them here, and then, sell them to the people. And in the first 2 hours of launching my own store here in Lithuania, I got a sale, and I remember, how stoked I was as a kid there, I got like 30 euros. It's crazy, and it was, I think, the sweetest money that I ever made. And this is kind of what started everything. And, afterwards I had made a lot of mistakes. I grew that business actually, to become the biggest business in its own category here in Lithuania relatively quickly due to the fact that nobody was using Facebook ads. But I burned it. I burned it because I was honestly like a stupid kid. I was 18 back then, I just caught like a shiny thing syndrome. I started to pursue a personal brand, to create, it wasn't kind of a personal brand, but it was more about a jewelry that has a branding, custom products, etc. Because I thought, hey, what if China or AliExpress will come into Lithuania? I will lose everything I have, right? So this is why I decided to create like custom jewelry. But when I figured out, that, hey, I simply do not have enough money, to sustain the operations, because the custom products, they take a lead time. And you usually sell out your products in a month, and you need to wait 3-4 months to get, the new order in. Then you need to sell out these products because you simply do not have enough money to buy enough stock. Or just hit like minimal order quantities here, and learned like a lot of tough mistakes back in the days.
Yeah, there's so much to take away from there. Sorry to hear about your loss at such a very, very, very tender age. So you must have been like 7, 8 years, at the time.
Yeah, I think 8 or 8.
8 or 9, right?
Yeah.
So yeah, and then just you bouncing right back up, and then challenging yourself up until now. So the person you are now, are you still extroverted, or would you say you're introverted as a person?
Honestly, I'm an introvert, and I think I was always introvert. I just learned how to be an extrovert through honestly perseverance and just trial and error process.
What about your co-founder? Is he an extrovert or an introvert?
I would say it's also maybe more towards introverted side, right? So both of us are introverted, and of course these things do present their own challenges in growing a business, and we can talk maybe about that if you're interested a little bit later. Interesting. Okay, so with AdKings, why do you? When you started 3 years ago, was it exclusively Facebook ads, or were you taking this more omni-channel view with clients? Yeah. So when we were just starting, it was literally just Facebook ads, because when we were starting, 2 years ago, everybody was saying that, Facebook ads was already at bad position, right? But reality is we were getting like huge successes. And I remember maybe like 3 or 4 months in just starting to work, we hit like our first big success, scaled the business from making about 20, 30K a month to all the way to almost 200K per month in literally like 2 months working together. So yeah, it was like our first big like victory there. And now, of course, the proportions of them thankfully have grown quite a bit. But we started with just Facebook ads, and then we started to complicate it, because we never wanted to be, just another agency, just another people. We were always, the challengers. And this is what type of like qualities I created to myself or, learned to pursue when I was going through all the challenges in my life from my childhood. Just basically go where is your discomfort zone. Look for a challenge, look, for the toughest truth and just go through it. And for us at that time, it was actually, taking broader approach. How do we actually grow a business? How do we actually ensure we are profitable, not just do marketing to them? It was such a, paradigm shift for us, I guess.
So how many clients, what kind of business did you initially scale, from what kind of business was it?
It was in beauty niche, and we are working to them till this day. It was just kind of, I guess, shows,
Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Did you know that cloud-hosted e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce do not provide automatic backups? Rewind steps in to protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 stores. Install Rewind and get to test it for free over 7 days. And to extend the 7-day trial to 30 days, head over to rewind.io, their website, and mention 2x eCommerce.
Relationship we have built with them, and yeah, I think we didn't even have many employees back in the days. We were like 3 founders and 3 or 4 extra employees that mainly worked in support. So it was like relatively small business. We were like selling mainly through Amazon, a little bit on the store, but then we were able to completely, revamp our kind of approach and actually make a store as their primary sales channel. Okay,
so today, if like I was an e-commerce business, how would I work? What would working with AdKings look like? Now, the reason I'm asking is I want to get an understanding of what like Omni-channel, your Omni-channel approach will look like. Would you be looking at my P&L, for instance? Would you, want to kind of understand my cash conversion cycles? At what level, what depth? You talked about being an outsourced CMO. I really like to get into to what it looks like, working with yourselves.
Yeah, so I would say first of all, we usually like to know pretty much everything or as much as possible of the business. This means, all the behind the scenes numbers. And I know some people are uncomfortable in sharing them. So we usually, still take at least the most important ones, like what you mentioned, like lead times, profit margins, shipping costs, fixed costs that we're having. We might not necessarily need us to tell, hey, this is what we are spending for this employee or this employee, but we need to know their fixed costs. Because what we can do then is we can do predictions and we can do calculations at what scale and what ROAS we will be getting what type of profit and calculate it literally, to the cent. And this is what, I think drives a lot of our omni-channel differentiating factor, that we are able to combine different channels and synchronize them towards one metric, which is store level ROAS. We don't care, how Facebook ads is performing. We do not care how like AdWords is performing. All we care is what type of ROAS is in the store, which means, what amount of sales out of the ad spend we're having. And then, how much money people put in their pockets. This is, the main KPI for us. Exactly. And usually how we work, right, is we kind of already developed this formula and literally tested with many different clients. So the first step is usually we do a 5 weeks trial working just with Facebook ads. This means if a client comes to us, we usually do have this kind of like onboarding procedure where we do huge vetting for a client. We figure out his background, history, his experience in e-commerce, just to figure out if we are the right fit as a partners to him, and whatever, we're having same understanding about the market. Because there are so many people that are expecting that they will come to us and will make them millionaires overnight. In reality, it's not how the businesses are built or made, and sometimes it's not even the best, even if you can do it, because there's a sustainability issue. So we usually measure, what type of business owner there is. When we do 5 weeks trial working with just Facebook ads, and the goal here is, first of all, for us to figure out, how the client is actually communicating, because it's a partnership. If we are investing time, we want to make sure, other party is receptive. We are investing their own time, and, we are basically really wanting to see their business to grow and what type of relationship in general, whatever we are even clicking. Then we usually offer at the same time, low cost way for them to check, how we would be working with us and how we would feel, what's the process, etc. And third, we usually test out scalability of Facebook ads. So usually with these 5 weeks, we can tell, how scalable the account is, get a glimpse into the business and tell them, what basically the action steps will need to be done to get them to the next level. And this is usually where exactly the omnichannel strategy comes into play. Because we are starting to see, hey, Facebook ads are not scalable that much, because we are seeing ROAS drop like, 15% whenever we try to bump up the ad spend budget by 50%, right? And then based on these equations and data, we are able to predict things moving along and set up these charts and see, exact ROAS at certain points and say, okay, what if the ROAS on Facebook ads drops to 1.2 or 1.4, but we make it up with emails, right? And we suddenly see, that instead of losing like 40K a month, suddenly clients make 60K.
So in regards to like the blended ROAS, or the marketing efficiency ratio, what's a good number across the board? How much, what kind of ROAS do you expect to see to know, okay, this is actually scalable?
Yeah. So first of all, I have to tell you, about differences between Facebook ads ROAS and, store level. So in a lot of cases, Facebook ad ROAS, especially now, are getting lower, and it's quite usual to see, especially if it's a little bit more scaled, ROAS anywhere between 1.5 to 3. In majority of cases, it's actually about 2 for majority of the businesses on Facebook ad side. That is if you're spending some money there. But the good thing is that on the store level side, you can see ROAS anywhere from 2.5 to 5.
Yeah.
Right. While you're getting ROAS 1.5 on Facebook. So it's more about, how you blend it and how you retain the customers. And exactly, treat the Facebook ad as an acquisition channel, where you are acquiring a lot of eyes, attention, etc. When you funnel these people into your landing page funnel, you get your email, you actually, make, first of all, a little bit of a sales, but you also get your emails. For emails, you usually sell them, whatever that's a new customer welcome flow, person might be buying in 14 days. Or maybe you acquired this customer and you're upselling him another product or via emails after like 2 or 3 months. So you have to take all these touch points into consideration when creating the strategy.
Yeah. Does Google come into the mix in any way? Ads?
Yeah, so AdWords and YouTube ads is a big part actually. So what you're seeing with Google, especially the more you spend on ads on Facebook, the more people actually Google for brand and Google for similar keywords. This is very important to have a Google ads set up there. And whenever we are scaling apps on Facebook side, we are seeing that it's very easy to scale up AdWords side. So there's huge correlation. Similar thing with YouTube ads, right? I never recommend, and in the past we did experiment a lot with YouTube ads as an acquisition channel for e-commerce brands specifically. But what we figured out that it works only for about 1 in 20 brands. So what I usually recommend, and literally, if you can take anything from this podcast, go into YouTube ads and stop remarketing. It's so easy to get ROAS anywhere between 8 to 20 there that it's, even a kid could do. What you do is literally set up 180-day website visitors audience and run a video ad, just, talking about your brand. That's all you need. And it's such an easy way to bump up your store level ROAS and just quite easy win.
That's gold. Let's end the conversation now. That's cool. That's amazing. That's an amazing tip. Literally an hour before I called you, I purchased a pair of shoes from a retargeted Google ad on display while searching for something, on a website completely different. You know why? Because I got they gave me a discount. It was like a retargeting with a discount, a 20% discount. I just couldn't, ignore.
Yep.
Being a chip skaters, couldn't they? Okay.
It gets to all of us.
Exactly. So next thing I really want to go deep into Facebook ads now, and then we can talk about all the other, platforms. So in regards to Facebook, where's the most important aspect of managing a Facebook account? From account structure through to creatives, is there even a most important? How do you weigh, the certain aspects of running a Facebook ad effectively account?
So maybe there are like two parts to it. So first of all, about what's happening in the Facebook ad manager itself, and we can talk about creatives and structures, but reality, I would say, especially structures these days are getting way simpler. For artificial intelligence, targeting, you basically don't need to do much work there to succeed. Big part comes into the creatives, right? And the creatives really needs to hit your target audience, understand their pain points. And there are literally, formulas, and pretty much everybody knows, like the most simple formula where you have a hook, you have, a few USPs mentioning, how the product solves that pain point that you created. Then you have a customer testimonials and you have call to action. This is the basic formula, right? But it works. And the ads are another very important thing. But what I feel often people miss out on is what happens outside of a Facebook. And we are coming back to Omnichannel again. What do you do on the website? What type of offer you run? For example, there's a huge difference if you run, hey, buy, for a certain amount of dollars, right, and get 33% off, right? Versus, buy two, get one free. Did you know that often we are seeing about 20 to 30% increase in conversion rates whenever we are running the specific offer of buy two plus get one free, instead of just using, a simple discount. Small thing, right? But, imagine what 20 to 30% bump on conversion rates, AOV, whatever, would do to Facebook ads. So exactly, the biggest wins right now are outside of Facebook. And usually in the funnel, merchandising, strategy, positioning, offers, bundles. And this is rule another layer that we are usually working with clients on. And I actually, even, I guess I'll just plug in quickly my own Build a Scale eCommerce show. So I recently did there an episode about exotic funnels and how we are affecting the Facebook ads these days. And what I mean by exotic funnels, for example, we were working with one of the brands that were selling biohacking supplements in general money, and we are one of the biggest brands here. But the problem is with Facebook ads, if you drive people directly into the product, they would get ROAS of about 1.6, maximum 1.8, which is not very huge, especially in Germany alone. So what we did, right, first of all, we created the tutorials, and this was one of the funnels we were testing. And tutorials are basically pages where you drive people in and you kind of present them this opportunity to learn more about the product via article or, some sort of educational content before we get directed into the product. So what? About 30% increase in ROAS just from that. But we took even it a step further because we figured out, okay, if people get educated more about the product, they're buying more. How we can give them more education and maybe even extend, so to say, the path and the time frame we're taking education in. So what we did, we actually created a course for biohackers how to boost up their immune system. Literally, course, and we sold them for either for free or for $1, right? We would get people in, and it would be literally like a 7 days course for email marketing, where every day we would be sending them like 10, 15-minute video about something and pitching the product, somewhere in the video, mentioning, how this product helps to boost up immunity system from this side, this helps to provide viruses, etc. And the ROAS actually went up to 4. So
that's incredible.
It's all about, how you look at it. And I actually covered this in our own Build a Scale eCommerce show. And just in case somebody wants to check
on the podcast,
it,
we'll look for it. We'll link to it in the show notes. That's incredible.
Exactly.
And that just shows you, the importance of education, because they're hooked now. You've hooked them. They're into your funnel. You're building trust, likability. And the results are amazing. So did it have a call to action in every single email, or did it have a call to action in the final email?
It actually had in every single email, right? Because how it would be, there would be a video, right? And actually, one of the founders would be talking the video, telling stories, presenting the science, how it works, comparing the products. And he would say, click the button there, there's like a 10% discount if you're interested to buy it. It doesn't need to be salesy, right? What you need to do is to give value to people.
As with everything, right? As with everything.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about initially about ensuring that you need the trial period to ensure that the founder or whoever you're working with is receptive enough to work with you. So if you tell them to create content for a video course like you did, they do it, and then you test, and whatever the results are, they're always happy to act on your advice. That makes it incredible sense. And I like I like this concept. There's a chap on Facebook that said this. I can't quite remember who it was, but a few weeks ago he posted, it was like on Twitter, sorry, it was like your creatives will win the clicks, but your website will win the sale. And that just circles in with what you just said, which is, a lot of the action goes on the website, and a lot of missed opportunities. And you talked about, the 2-for-1 offer versus, just a baseline 10% off, which makes a lot of sense. Now, circling back into Facebook, into the Facebook ad account structure, you talk about simplicity. Do you mind just breaking down the optimal Facebook account structure? I know this is a lot about simplicity, but how would you set up, say, for a beauty brand that's looking to scale? Where do you put most of your attention to using the 80-20 rule, in the setup of an account?
Look, so first of all, I guess everybody knows about cold acquisition campaigns, retargeting, and however you call it, tough, muff, buff, etc. So basically, let's start about cold acquisition campaigns, and we usually just call them cold. So the trick here is not to have too many campaigns, because this is one of the things I'm seeing right now. A lot of people still like to spread their budget too thinly and not give Facebook enough budget to optimize based on the data we're getting in the campaign or ad set level. So what we usually do is we have at maximum, I would say 4 or 5 campaigns in the cold acquisition that are based on CBO, first of all. And usually each of these campaigns have 5 audiences in them. So 2 of them are usually lookalikes between 5 to 10%, whatever, what we tested is working. 2 of them are interest with expanded interest option, and 1 of them is no targeting audience. This means audience with maybe just gender and age gap, etc., literally nothing else more to it. And why we are doing it this way, right? So basically we have a small part of the audience, which means lookalikes, very targeted. So, if Facebook deems that it needs to transfer some budget to more targeted audiences, it can do this way. If it deems that, this day the performance is very good in broad, it can push it to the broad audiences. And it's very interesting. We have tested broad audiences separately, and we tested lookalikes separately in separate campaigns, without combining them together. So once you combine them, something magical happens, and we're seeing, even if it's small, I think it's about 8 to 12%, what we tested across, I think 8 or 9 accounts. This was our finding, 8 to 12% improvement once you try to combine them together.
Yeah.
And then we use CBO to basically attribute to a budget, and we usually use 4 to 5 ads into each of these ad sets. And this is kind of how our cold stacks looks like.
Okay.
And maybe for the people, especially looking to scale up harder, one of the best tricks and advices they can give is it's creative diversity. And often, people basically are getting misaligned on creative diversity. What you need to be doing is not, so to say, creating hundreds or thousands of creatives and literally rotating them in your assets every day. But what you need to be having is one campaign running one cold creatives, another campaign running another creative stack, third campaign running third creative stack. This is how you scale up harder and faster, but at the same time, you do not burn out your audience that fast. So you need to do, instead of, just thinking about it as a one linear work, you need to think it about 3 or 4 lines of work.
I absolutely agree with you. And you could also look at it from a product, so if you're multi-product, you just focus it on that. It makes
it's like
incredible
multi-product
sense.
Or via angles, however.
Angles, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. That's incredible tip there. And so from do you use like dynamic creative ads, or do you just write the ads out manually?
So essentially in the past we were using dynamic ads much more. Now we are using them in testing when we need to test a lot of variables at the same time. Because what we are finding, it usually doesn't allocate to a budget evenly enough for us to make really accurate decisions. And we usually like right now to test, what we do first. If it's like a fresh account, we usually test with dynamic because we do not have any data about what's working. But once we figure out like the text, headlines, etc., what are working, we usually just test with them, one creative and one variable at a time. And we are just getting much more accurate data this way.
Makes sense. Makes a lot of sense. What about so a lot of people? So I like to sort of liken bidding like teenage sex, where everybody talks about it, but no one's actually doing it. What's your approach to bidding? Believe you me, I've seen a lot of accounts, and most are just automatic. But what are your thoughts on bidding? Is it necessary? And what is what? Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Klaviyo is a growth marketing platform that powers over 25,000 online businesses. Klaviyo understands every single customer interaction and empowers brands to create more personalized marketing moments. Listen, analyze, and act on your customer data with Klaviyo. Visit klaviyo.com/2x. Working from your point of view.
So bidding, right? I think it will be a very controversial question, and I often feel what happens in digital marketing, especially area, that everybody's just looking for that next big hack to hack the system, hack the Facebook, just to get that a little small edge. But reality, it never happens, but people assume it happens because it's kind of you're just convinced that this campaign is getting better results than another one. And reality is like custom biddings are a viable strategy, but usually in one way or another, you're still sacrificing something. So for example, you have a cost cap, right? The problem with cost cap is, yes, you can get like a cheaper sales, but when you scale, you will not be able to scale it up because it will stop spending at one moment or another. So at the same point, hey, if you were just running normal automatic bidding, etc., you would be able to scale it up and, get more sales. So it's kind of a debate, that everybody, I think, has their own opinion. But the most important thing is do not overcomplicate things with Facebook ads. And this is what I learned through the last year. The more you focus on what I mentioned, perfecting the funnel, offer omni-channel experience, instead of, trying to hack the system or create a crazy way, to capitalize on things. And we did that in the past a lot, believe me. Yeah. It kind of, you have to go through that phase. Yeah. But, with some maturity and time, you do understand that you're just doing nothing there, just wasting time.
Awesome. Okay, let's go back to the funnel. So you shared a funnel with me, which was incredible. It was for the
cold acquisition.
It was the top of funnel where they came in, email capture, and then they entered a course. It was either free or $1 course, and then they got to a 7-day email course with videos and call to actions, and that converted. That increased ROAS to 4x. Do you have any other funnels? Let's say I'm a cosmetic brand, for instance. How would you build out? So we're stepping out of the Facebook world and looking at it from a stack, from a marketing channel stack level. How would you design a funnel for like for a somewhat organically well-known e-commerce brand? So let's say you're an influencer, you already have like 250,000 followers or so, and you've launched your own makeup brand, for instance. How would you, and they come to you to help, do the marketing. What would you do? How would you stack up, the marketing to create a funnel that's, that's delivering 4 to 5x ROAS consistently?
Cool. Yeah. So 4 to 5x. First of all,
blended.
I like to be honest with
4 to 5x.
Yeah, even blended, it doesn't always happen, right? In beauty niche, because beauty niche is a lot more competitive, you're usually seeing a little bit lower ROAS, but you could be expecting anywhere to 2.5 to 3.5 on the store with like some decent scale. So the first thing, what I would be looking at is how we can create the bundles. Because when you can boost up the AOV that basically the people are buying for, it's very easy to, spend maybe the same amount of dollars or just a little bit more on Facebook, but get better returns. So the first thing is, hey, if I'm selling, some sort of like skincare product, how can I bundle up and add 2 other products? And then, figure out how to present it. Do I want to present it that, hey, we buy it for what I mentioned, these 3 products for 33% off? Or do they buy these 2 products and get additional product as a gift for free? And these are the things that you need to play around and test them out. And the reality is only about 5 out of 100 tests will work here, but these 5 will be what can completely change your business trajectory. So that's the base one. And in case you do not have enough products to bundle up and, create this huge bundle, do quantity upsells. So for example, we are working with one brand, but kind of has like one product, which is eyeliner. And normally, once again, like eyeliner costs what, $15? It's cheap product, right? No way we would be able to make any money from Facebook if we wouldn't be selling bundles with eyeliners. And what we did is we actually introduced the same concept. You can buy 1 eyeliner, or close to that, there's an option to buy 2 eyeliners plus get 1 free. And now suddenly 80% of people buy that second option. So suddenly, AOV went from $15 to $30. Yeah. Double the AOV, so much easier to break through. So that's kind of on the front end. Another thing, if you are selling products already over $70 AOV, I would say it's very mandatory, especially in beauty niche, to test advertorials. And as I mentioned before, advertorials are kind of like a newspaper-ish websites or websites that has a goal to educate people about the product, about how it's beneficial to the people before they even go to the product. So for example, even recently we applied similar principle to one of our clients in Australia. We were a skincare brand, and I think we were spending about $2,000 a day, so not very low, but nothing amazing. Mm-hmm. And we were just getting this cap, Ross was about you on Facebook, and we wasn't able to break through basically. So what we started to do is we started to create these advertorials and just created one story-based advertorial, which later tells a story of one of our clients about how we tried all the products out there and how we were disappointed about them and how we came to this product and how it changed their life, and then putting in some science behind, putting in testimonials and call to action. Mm-hmm. And suddenly we were able to spend not $2,000 per day consistently, but $4,000 at the same ROAS. And this is what I mean, like small change, but once you find the one that is winning, you just completely change the business trajectory.
Makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense. So again, it seems most of the work, most of the focus is on site. It's on actually what people, influencing exactly what people are doing on site. The traffic is the traffic. You do the targeting properly, but what are people doing on site, and how can you change their behaviors to align with your goals? That's what I'm picking up from this.
Yeah, I think there is like an overlap, keep in mind, because whenever you're running specific offer on the site, it converts better on Facebook end. And you have to keep in mind, that at a higher level, you usually want to even have like a 3 landing pages or 4 landing pages. They're completely different from each other because each of these landing page will be able to target different segment of your audience. So for example, part of the audience might already know that we need an eyeliner just because we need an eyeliner. Another part of the audience might need an eyeliner because it's maybe waterproof or sweat-proof eyeliner. Maybe we're imagining going in rain or something. Another part of the audience might resonate the best with eyeliner, which is literally beach-proof. You just kind of put it the same thing, waterproofness, into the beach-proofness prism.
Yeah.
And suddenly you're able to relate with people who want to travel, who want to go outside in the summer, maybe not necessarily, to stay at home or, in the autumn weather, which resonates more with waterproof message.
Yeah. Makes a lot of sense.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things you talked about was, spending $100K a day on an ad campaign. I know you mentioned it. What did it look like? And what was how consistently did you spend the $100K a day, and how did you sort of where did you allocate the monies to, and how did you sort of measure and make decisions off the back of that at that high frequency at that level?
Yeah, so it's actually very interesting. So essentially with this client, we were stuck at about 30K per day ad spend for, I think, half a year, right? And literally we tried many different ways, restructuring accounts, changing creatives, changing offers, and literally, everything that we come up with. And nothing was able to kind of create this breakthrough for them. But then we kind of decided, to implement more different tracking method. And this is where we are getting into the data science. And basically all that I can tell you is that Facebook attribution system is super flawed, especially if you're using multi-step journeys. So what we did, we got Rockerbox, and you can explore them. They are actually extremely expensive software. There are some cheaper alternatives, let's say Hyros or Wicked Reports. But basically Rockerbox cost about 30K a year. But what they do, they aggregate the data from different clicks, different acquisition channels, and show you the real data, how people interact with your brand. And for example, hey, they have seen your brand, click through a Facebook ad, they clicked like 3 ads on AdWords, they clicked 1 ad on YouTube, and they, Googled you or something, and they bought like 3 months later. With Facebook ads, you wouldn't be able to see that data. But with this attribution software, you are. So what we did and what brought the most impact with this client was that we simply disregarded what Facebook reporting is saying. And we started to completely optimize on the data we were acquiring from these more advanced analytics softwares. And at first it was a bit scary because, basically there was huge discrepancy versus Facebook campaigns and what we were seeing there. And the Facebook was saying that these campaigns, like part of the campaigns, were doing good. But when we would go to look in Rockerbox about them, we would actually figure out that, hey, it's actually not really true. These campaigns that the Facebook is reporting is doing good, they are not doing good in omnichannel journey. And vice versa, the campaigns that are not performing on Facebook, they are actually crushing it on omnichannel. And we were able to swap with spend and start spending based on Rockerbox. And what we have seen is actually ROAS, first of all, increased by, I think, 7 to 9%, something like this. And we were able to scale up from 30K to 100K. So not only we were almost like, 3xing the scale, but at the same time, we were able to improve the ROAS situation.
So were you able to...
Yeah.
Sorry, go for it.
No, go for it.
So were you able to drill down with Rockerbox to the campaign and ad sets and ad level in Facebook, or did it stop at Facebook as a channel?
Yeah, we were able to look at the campaigns and ad sets level, but not the ads at that time.
Okay, which is fine, which is perfectly fine. Yeah, that's incredible. That's incredible. So if you can't quite afford Rockerbox, what's the next best, attribution platform you will recommend?
So yeah, talking about iOS 14, so right now we are literally moving all of our clients in some other softwares just to explore and test them out. So one of the most popular one, the one that we're choosing right now is Hyros, and it's hyros.com if you're interested to check it. We're much more affordable. We cost about $1,000 per month, so it's a few times cheaper compared to that. I still can't tell exactly how it works compared to Rockerbox. This is the test we will be executing in the upcoming 2-3 months. But for now, I for sure know Rockerbox. In Omnichannel case, it does work significantly better than typical Facebook reporting. And I'm expecting it to work even better if iOS 14 is coming up and, all this mess will start to happen.
And then there's also, in the whole mix of all this, we have that gap of word of mouth. Just like as you're recommending these platforms to us, Hyros or Rockerbox, and someone was to type it directly into Google or search for it, no one would ever be able to attribute, and say they purchase in 2 weeks' time or whenever they listen to this podcast, no one would ever be able to attribute it to the podcast. So I also think like in marketing, there's some like intangible channels, which usually is word of mouth that are just immeasurable. The only way you could sort of measure them is brand name search, on Google, because people just type it directly to on Google.
Yeah, I call the thing, basically I created a concept of shadow funnel. It's basically a real funnel that the customers are taking. Imagine, you are seeing the Facebook ads, maybe Hotjar system, just to get a little bit more perspective. Person comes into your website, right? And then, he spends for 10 minutes and then he makes a purchase. It might be that out of these 10 minutes free, he spent, scrolling through your website, and then you see him just pausing, not doing anything here. What often happens, and actually I think in 70 to 80% of the cases, before buying a product, people go and Google it. Google the reviews about it, go into YouTube, and this is the real customer journey that you see in no analytical software. Maybe you are calling their friend and asking their opinion, review, and it's important to think about it even broader, right? How you can get positive reviews on YouTube, right? How you can get, some publicity on the first page on Google searches. All these things do matter, and we have seen huge shifts in conversion rate based on that.
Yeah, and experts matter a ton, mate. Two things matter. Experts matter, and this is not for everybody. A physical presence matters. Not all the time, but physical presence matters. So if I drive past a store every day, and I'm, and finally I decide, okay, I need a product that store sells, they will come top of mind quite naturally. Now, I agree, not everybody can do that, but experts matter. I'll give you an example. We're trying to redecorate our house now, and we're like talking about like paint and stuff. I've searched, YouTube, blah blah blah, and we whittled it down to one brand. This brand has a high street, presence, and you can trust them. You have consultants and all of that. But I got a quote, a very, very, very detailed quote from a decorator. Hers was the best quote ever, and she rubbished that brand and suggested an alternative brand. And I'm most likely going to go with the alternative because she just rubbished that brand and said, no, this is actually better. They're not as big, but they actually put more effort into it. And just hearing that, people are hearing this conversation right now, you and I, and people are listening to your recommendations, and they're searching and researching. So I think that expert thing, which is intangible, we call it influencer marketing, but I really think that just having those conversations, sending your products for free, to people to experience and enjoy and just talk about it.
Exactly.
Just matters. It matters a ton.
Yeah.
Okay.
It's the shadow funnel.
Yeah, the shadow funnel. The shadow funnel. We're going to talk about. If you have any links to it, I will link to it in the show notes. Before we jump into the iOS, this iOS thing, I did want to talk really briefly about conversion rate optimization. So you talked about having. Let's take a quick break to hear from our sponsors. Did you know that cloud-hosted e-commerce platforms like Shopify and BigCommerce do not provide automatic backups? Rewind steps in to protect Shopify and BigCommerce stores with automatic backups. Rewind is trusted by over 25,000 stores. Install Rewind and get to test it for free over 7 days. And to extend the 7-day trial to 30 days, head over to rewind.io, their website, and mention 2x eCommerce. 3 pillars in your omni-channel, approach to marketing. The first was obviously, performance marketing. The second was retention email, so you don't leak. So whatever you're doing from performance does not just go away. You're able to have that conversation, through own marketing channels. And then you also talked about conversion rate optimization. I know you've touched upon 2 things in regards to conversion rate optimization, which is like bundling and just the presentation of offers. And you also talked about the advertorial page. What other CRO tips do you think, or are you seeing, vast majority, 80% and 90% of e-commerce stores missing that when they change, it bumps up conversions?
Yeah. So maybe I would actually not talk about specific tips. I actually covered quite a bit of them in podcast, but what I want to say would be much more valuable is how you can actually approach the thinking. So if, let's say, you're making 50K per month plus, you must be doing SEO. And this is what we're doing with every single client of ours, because what would happen a year later, right? Facebook prices are going up every single month, every single quarter, every year. And in a way, imagine that you are the only one who's not doing SEO out of your competitors. a year later, instead of making maybe $1.5 per customer, we're making 2.5. And this is a very reasonable number to hit in a year. We had cases where we went from like $2.5 per customer all the way to almost like $7 per customer in a year and a half working together with a brand. So imagine this, you are not doing this and your competitors are doing this. So in a year, you will have to decrease your ad spend, right? Because the CPMs will go up, link click prices will go up, right? And it will be harder for you to be profitable, but your competitors will continue climbing. Not only we will beat the market average, which is literally CPM, right? And the link clicks you're getting on paid channels, but will go up over that. So instead of you scaling from maybe spending $1K per day, right, you will maybe have to go down to $700 per day ad spend. While your competitors will go from the same level, $1K per day, all the way to $2 or $3K per day. This means doubling or tripling for a business. And this is the most important thing to understand about CRO, that it's not an option these days. It's literally mandatory if you want to get an edge and, stay competitive in the market.
So incredible advice there. Incredible. Okay. Let's talk about iOS. Let's wrap this up with iOS. Let's forget iOS.
Yeah.
Third-party cookies, third-party data. It's going to be deprecated over the next 2-3 years. As marketers, some of us are nervous, others are super excited. I would love to know your thoughts and what you're doing to prepare your customers for the change, the impending change.
Look, so first of all, I guess I will have very unpopular opinion about this question. I know everybody is scared, everybody is, preparing for rewards, and I know some people who are actually even, merging the businesses with another agencies or something just to prepare just in case everything crashes, which I think is a little bit extreme maybe these days. But where I think the real answer lies is that will be housed for at least 6 months. Once it rolls out, because it will be a new thing for everybody. Everybody will need to adapt and adjust. But I think it will be survival fittest situation. And once again, Facebook system and all the other marketing systems out there are controlled on auction based. This means the more people are spending money, the more expensive it is. And after some time, if people are not making money, they'll start spending less on it. And it will still come to equilibrium, some sort of. It will just take 3 or 6 months for everything to equalize once again and come to a point where maybe we figure out certain answers, maybe we figure out, a way to approach it, or maybe the market just equalizes itself. So that's my opinion about iOS and about preparations, right? So as I mentioned, we are moving majority of our clients into high-ROS just to be able to see a full picture and still be able to optimize things based on that. Kunle, I think you're muted.
So thank you. So attribution is where it's at the moment. How do you think the attribution platforms themselves are prepared for what is about to happen? Because, essentially, if you're not a Shopify, if you're not a platform, if you're not server side, really the cookies, the tracking you've put in place, is it really going to work? And there's no technology, episode, but are the attribution platforms themselves, prepared for what's ahead of them, or all of us?
Yeah, so essentially I was doing my own research here because you can never really trust somebody else.
Mm-hmm.
And I was actually talking with some of these founders, either higher ups or even founders itself. And honestly, what was interesting that majority of them are even saying that what we're iOS 14 doing right now will not affect them. Because what we're doing is we're often working through offline conversions or tracking conversions in their own website or system, which is not directly tied in and doesn't require confirmation from iOS side. How it will go in next 2-3 years, I don't know. Because we know that Google is preparing another big shift there. And in general, I would say the marketing world is changing.
Yeah.
But we just have to keep in mind that we need to stay calm and look for opportunities when other people are scared.
Exactly.
It's very similar to stock markets.
Very, 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 very similar. It's a very emotional thing. I'm very active with, I'm a long-term investor in the stock market, but I'm a medium, I'm not only I'm a day trader with crypto, but I'm medium. So I take positions for days. And I just see market panics, when prices drop, and that's opportunity. It's like, oh, it's cheap. This token is cheap, and you're right.
Yeah.
You're right. Just staying calm in all of this madness. And you've given me an idea. I'm going to reach out to these attribution platforms so we can get them on the show. But it is really. Yeah, you're right. It's also very much website oriented. We'll see how everything plays out. Final question before I let you go. It's coming to more than an hour, I think. It's just what are your predictions on e-commerce? So this past year has been phenomenal. Also in the midst of a lot of issues with regards to the pandemic, but just moving forward as as the vaccines roll out and we return to a new normal, what are your predictions around e-commerce and the direction it's headed?
So honestly, I'm expecting like next 2 worlds for US market, especially to be very volatile because as we know, like economic situation there is not that good. I can't tell for sure will there be recession or not. But if it happens here, it will be big. And, then I'm expecting pretty much majority of our clients to be affected because we're sailing in US markets. And we are already making some strategical moves to relocate at least part of our businesses into the European markets. Because Europe will be significantly more stable. And even now, if you do it properly in Europe, you could be making at least majority of the same cash you would be making in US. You just need different approach compared to US. You need more localized approach, more established, more like localized support and ads, etc.
Makes sense. I forgot the name of the D2C watch brand. They're actually based in Lithuania, but they have an
Filippo Loretti,
right? They're global. They're global, and they're one of many. It's just there's a lot of, there are more conversations about e-commerce going on in America, in the American D2C space, quote and unquote. I digress. Interested. Okay, mate, it's been amazing having you on the show. So for those people who just stick in here, that have loved this conversation, where do you hang out the most? Where do you drop your value? Where are you most active on, and how can they follow you and your work?
Yeah, so first of all, I guess if you just want to check out what you are doing with AdKings Agency, so just go to www.adkings.agency. Or if you just want to hear more from me, I think the best way is just the podcast. So it's www.btsshow.com. Or you can just find me on LinkedIn. I'm actually getting more and more active here, as Kunle mentioned. So yeah.
Yeah, I never asked you over our conversation, but how does your agency actually work? Is it fixed? Is it rev share? Is it equity? What does working with your agency look like with AdKings?
Yeah, so the trial period that I mentioned before, it's usually about 4,500 for this trial period. And here we are like not making any money. Once again, it's about figuring if both sides are happy and, what is the potential. And then, after this trial period, we usually set up like a custom deal with everybody and we charge a fixed plus revenue share. And at one point, we were working only on just, revenue share and success fees, etc. But then I figured out that, no real self-respecting agency will work only on performance-based. It's so easy to get scammed. Yeah. We had the clients, for example, who would just, inflate their cost on their own side or something, and it's just not a good thing. This is why we created like a fixed fee. Yeah. Fixed fee that, would basically filter out all the people that are not serious about the business, that do not understand investment thing, and, maybe are not even ready to commit for it right now. Yeah. I'm moving very much because I don't run an agency. I'm an advisor. So I'm moving more and more towards, as I get older, of course, towards equity, as a person, and it's usually like early stage that I just spot opportunities. But, AdKings agency is a place to be, to check Darius out. I will link to his social media, in the show notes. Darius, it's been an absolute pleasure.
you didn't just meet my expectations, you superseded my expectations in this one. So thank you so much. Thank you for giving value. And best of luck. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Yeah. So thank you for having me.